Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our channel. Today we have an incredibly gripping and intense topic to discuss. These are the most brutal criminal talks with judges. Throughout history, there have been numerous cases that shook the world, leaving behind a trail of devastation and heartbreak. Join us as we delve into the chilling accounts of some of the most notorious criminals and their interactions with the judges who presided over their cases. Prepare yourselves for a rollercoaster of emotions as we explore the dark minds of these criminals and the confrontations that took place in the courtroom. Let's get started. Number 1. The Horror Unleashed. Our first criminal takes us back to the early 20th century when terror struck the streets. Meet James the Butcher Thompson, a sadistic serial killer who hunted a small town in the Midwest. His reign of terror lasted for over a decade, leaving a trail of mutilated bodies in his wake. Let's listen to Judge Evelyn Ramirez recount her chilling encounter with this heinous individual. Judge Evelyn Ramirez's interview. Judge Evelyn Ramirez: I vividly remember the day Thompson walked into my courtroom. His cold, calculating eyes sent shivers down my spine. It was as if he relished in the pain and suffering he had inflicted upon his victims. Throughout the trial, he showed no remorse, no empathy. His twisted mind was beyond comprehension. It was my duty to ensure justice prevailed, but facing such evil was a daunting task. Thompson's acts of brutality were unspeakable, and the evidence presented during the trial painted a horrifying picture of his crimes. His victims were brutally dismembered, their remains left scattered across the town. The level of sadism and depravity exhibited by Thompson left an indelible mark on all those individuals involved in the trial. Number 2. Behind the bars. Moving on to our next criminal, we encounter a notorious mobster who ruled the criminal underworld with an iron fist. Salvatore the Viper Russo was the epitome of organized crime, orchestrating heists, drug trafficking, and even ordering hits on his rivals. Let's hear from Judge Michael Anderson as he shares his chilling encounter with this dangerous individual. Judge Michael Anderson interview. Judge Michael Anderson: Russo's presence alone exuded power and intimidation. His criminal empire had infiltrated every aspect of society. I knew the stakes were high, and the safety of countless individuals rested on the outcome of this trial. However, dealing with Russo and his ruthless lawyers was like stepping into a lion's den. Every word spoken, every move made had to be calculated, for any mistake could have severe consequences. Russo was a master manipulator, capable of evading the law and leaving no trace of his involvement in the crimes he orchestrated. The trial was a battle between law enforcement and the criminal underworld, with Russo at the center of it all. The evidence presented painted a grim picture of his reign of terror, highlighting the extent of his criminal activities and the lives he had ruined. Number 3. The Minds of Madness. Our final criminal takes us into the realm of psychological horror. Meet Dr. Jonathan Blackwood, a respected psychiatrist turned deranged killer. Driven by a warped ideology, he believed that he was purging society of its weaknesses by eliminating his patients. This case pushed Judge Sarah Thompson to her limits as she faced a darkness within a seemingly enlightened mind. Judge Sarah Thompson's interview. Judge Sarah Thompson: Dr. Blackwood was a master manipulator, a true psychopath. His ability to mask his true intentions under the guise of a caring doctor was unnerving. Throughout the trial, I had to constantly remind myself that behind his calm demeanor and professional facade, there lurked a dark and twisted mind. Dr. Blackwood's crimes were a horrifying betrayal of trust. As a psychiatrist, he had access to vulnerable individuals seeking help and guidance, but instead of providing solace, he exploited their vulnerabilities, using his position of authority to satisfy his sadistic urges. The evidence presented during the trial revealed the chilling details of his heinous acts, leaving the courtroom in a state of disbelief. The psychological toll it took on me was immense. Listening to the testimonies of his surviving victims and their accounts of the psychological torment they endured at his hands was heart-wrenching. Dr. Blackwood's manipulation extended not only to his patients but also to the legal proceedings. He would attempt to charm and manipulate the jury, presenting himself as a misunderstood and empathetic individual. It was a constant battle to ensure that justice prevailed and that his true nature was exposed. As the trial progressed, it became clear that Dr. Blackwood's twisted ideology went beyond his patients. He believed he was on a mission to cleanse society, eliminating what he deemed as weaknesses. The depths of his delusions were chilling, and it was my duty to ensure that his delusions did not overshadow the truth and the suffering he had caused. Number 4. The Terror Unleashed. In this segment, we'll delve into the chilling accounts of 2 more brutal criminals and their encounters with judges who were tasked with delivering justice. Brace yourselves for the dark tales of their crimes. The Night Stalker. Our next criminal is none other than Richard Ramirez, infamously known as the Night Stalker. During the 1980s, Ramirez terrorized the streets of Los Angeles, committing a series of heinous acts including rape, murder, and burglary. Let's hear from the judge Samantha Wilson as she recalls her haunting experience presiding over Ramirez's trial. Judge Samantha Wilson interview. Judge Samantha Wilson. Richard Ramirez's trial was one of the most challenging experiences of my career. The atrocities he committed were beyond comprehension. The evidence presented against him painted a gruesome picture of his crimes. The terror he instilled in his victims and the communities he targeted was immeasurable. Ramirez showed no remorse during the trial. His dark, soulless eyes were a chilling reflection of the evil that resided within him. As the judge, I had to remain impartial, but it was incredibly difficult not to be affected by the horrific details that emerged in the courtroom. The Night Stalker case was a race against time to ensure that Ramirez's reign of terror was put to an end. The safety of the public was at stake, but one that I approached with determination, knowing the importance of holding Ramirez accountable for his heinous actions. The Serial Abuser. Our final criminal in this segment is Gabriel Thompson, a depraved serial abuser who targeted vulnerable individuals, often preying on children and the elderly. Thompson's crimes spanned over a decade, and his victims endured unspeakable horrors. Judge Emily Hernandez presided over his trial and witnessed the profound impact his actions had on the lives of those he victimized. Judge Emily Hernandez interview. Judge Emily Hernandez. Gabriel Thompson was a monster in every sense of the word. The crimes he committed were unimaginable, causing immense pain and suffering to innocent individuals. The level of sadism he displayed was deeply unsettling. During the trial, I had to listen to the heartbreaking testimonies of the survivors, many of whom were still struggling to heal from the trauma inflicted by Thompson. Their stories were harrowing and underscored the importance of seeking justice for the victims. As the judge, it was my duty to endure that Thompson faced the consequences of his actions. It was an emotionally draining experience, but I remained resolute in my pursuit of justice. The strength and resilience shown by the survivors throughout the trial were awe-inspiring and a testament to their courage. Number 5. The Twisted Minds. In this final segment, we'll delve into the twisted minds of 2 more brutal criminals and their encounters they had with judges who faced the daunting task of delivering justice. Prepare yourself for the chilling accounts that lie ahead. The Cannibal. Our next criminal is Albert Baxter, infamously known as a cannibal. Baxter's heinous acts of cannibalism shocked the world and earned him a place in the darkest annals of criminal history. Let's hear from Judge Olivia Thompson as she recounts her unsettling experience presiding over Baxter's trial. Judge Olivia Thompson interview. Albert Baxter was a true embodiment of evil. The details of his crimes were enough to make one's stomach turn. The depravity he exhibited was beyond comprehension. As the judge overseeing his trial, I was faced with the daunting task of ensuring justice for his victims. The evidence presented against Baxter was horrifying. The testimonies of the survivors and the forensic findings painted a grim picture of the brutality he inflicted upon his victims. It was crucial to approach the trial with utmost sensitivity and professionalism, while also recognizing the immense weight of the charges against him. Baxter's trial was a chilling reminder of the darkness that exists within human beings. It was my duty to remain impartial and focused on delivering justice, despite the disturbing nature of the crimes committed. The courtroom atmosphere was heavy with tension as the victims' families sought closure and the assurance that Baxter would never be able to commit such atrocities again. The Sadistic Arsonist. Our final criminal in this segment is Gregory Sullivan, sadistic arsonist who had an obsession with fire, resulting in the loss of countless lives and left a trail of destruction in his wake. Judge Daniel Anderson presided over Sullivan's trial, facing the challenge of bringing justice to the victims and their families. Judge Daniel Anderson interview. Gregory Sullivan's actions were deeply disturbing. The deliberate acts of arson he committed resulted in devastating consequences for numerous innocent individuals. As the judge, I had a responsibility to ensure that the severity of his crimes was reflected in the verdict and subsequent sentencing. During the trial, the harrowing stories of survivors and witnesses revealed the immense impact of Sullivan's actions on their lives. The fear and trauma they experienced were palpable in the courtroom, underscoring the urgency and significance of delivering justice swiftly and decisively. Sullivan's callousness and lack of remorse were evident throughout the trial. His disregard for human life was deeply unsettling. It was a constant reminder of the importance of standing up for the victims and ensuring that their voices were heard in the pursuit of justice. As we conclude this journey through the minds of the most brutal criminals, it's important to remember the victims and the lasting impact their crimes had on society. These judges faced unimaginable challenges, navigating the intricate dance between justice and the preservation of humanity. Thank you for joining us on this intense and gripping exploration of These Are the Most Brutal Criminals Talks with Judges. The stories shared by these judges serve as a stark reminder of the darkness that can reside within individuals and the unwavering dedication to those who seek justice.